It's kind of wild to think about, but there's this whole other financial universe out there, one that operates completely beyond the reach of laws, taxes, and, well, us. It's called the shadow economy, and today we're diving right in.
So let's just start with a number. $12 trillion. And get this, that's the low-end estimate of the private wealth tucked away in this secret world. To give you some perspective, with $12 trillion, you could buy Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, and still have enough change to buy them all again 4 more times. It's just a staggering amount of money.
So, that leads to the big questions, right? How in the world was a system this massive even built? And more importantly, how does it actually work? Well, let's pull back the curtain and find out.
Okay, so the secret to this whole $12 trillion universe, it really boils down to just 2 core tools. They're surprisingly simple, actually. Think of them as the basic Lego bricks you need to build a fortress of financial anonymity.
All right, first up, you've got the shell company. And no, this isn't a company that sells seashells. It's not a real business at all. No offices, no products, no employees. It's basically a corporate invisibility cloak. It's a legal ghost that exists only on paper, created for one single purpose: to make it impossible to know who really owns the money. And of course, every invisibility cloak needs a place to hide, right? A secret headquarters. That's where the offshore haven comes in. We're talking about countries or little territories that have basically built their entire economy around one thing: attracting foreign money. And they do it by making 2 irresistible promises. You'll pay little to no tax, and we will never talk. Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting, because there are 2 completely different ways to look at this whole setup. On one hand, you have folks who say, hey, this is essential. It's the grease in the wheels of global capitalism. It protects assets, it protects privacy. But on the other hand, critics are saying, are you kidding me? This is the plumbing for industrial-scale tax evasion, money laundering, and corruption. So who's right? So you have to wonder, how did we even get here? Did this system just pop into existence? Oh, not at all. This wasn't some happy accident. It was built deliberately, piece by piece, over decades, by some of the most powerful countries on Earth.
The whole blueprint really rests on 3 key innovations. Pillar number 1, it's actually an American invention. States like Delaware and New Jersey figured out they could make a lot of money by making it super cheap, super easy, and super anonymous to create a company. Pillar 2 came from the British. A court ruling back in 1929 created this brilliant legal loophole, the non-resident company. It meant you could get all the protection of British law without paying a dime in British tax. And then, the third and most famous pillar, Switzerland. In 1934, they passed a law that didn't just protect banking secrecy, it made revealing a client's information a crime. And just like that, the ultimate fortress for money was born.
For a very, very long time, this entire world operated in complete darkness. It was a secret society for the ultra-rich. But then, the 21st century happened. And with it came a series of massive, unprecedented data leaks that just blew the doors right off the hinges.
And inside one of those leaks, the Panama Papers, investigators found this, just breathtakingly honest internal memo from the law firm at the center of it all. It said, and I quote, 95% of our work coincidentally consists in selling vehicles to avoid taxes. I mean, wow, you really can't get more direct than that. They're not even trying to hide it. And what's fascinating is how each major leak told a different part of the story. First, the Panama Papers in 2016, that was all about straight-up illegal stuff. World leaders hiding money, criminals laundering cash. Then came the Paradise Papers a year later. The focus shifted. This was about the super sophisticated and often totally legal tax avoidance schemes used by huge corporations like Apple and Nike. And then, in 2021, the Pandora Papers dropped a bombshell. The system was evolving, and the United States, yeah, the US, was becoming one of the new top destinations for financial secrecy. So, okay, this all sounds pretty abstract, but what's the actual real-world cost? Well, the estimates are somewhere between $700 and $800 billion. That's how much tax revenue governments are losing. Not total, but every single year. That's money for hospitals, for roads, for schools, just gone. As you can imagine, when all this came out, people were furious. And that public outrage lit a fire under governments around the world. For the very first time, they decided to launch a real, coordinated counteroffensive. The empire was finally striking back. This fight back really came down to 2 major power moves. First, the US brought out the big guns with a law called FATCA. The message to foreign banks was simple: report all your American clients to us, or we'll cut you off from the US financial system. It was an offer they couldn't refuse. Then, the rest of the world basically created their own version, CRS, where over 100 countries agreed to automatically swap bank info with each other. Just like that, the old model of ironclad, don't ask, don't tell banking secrecy, it was pretty much dead.
But, and this is a big but, the story doesn't end there. If you think the shadow economy just rolled over and died, you'd be wrong. It's more like a super smart virus. When you hit it with one cure, it just mutates and adapts. And faced with all these new transparency rules, that's exactly what it did.
So how did it adapt? Well, it found loopholes, big ones. The money started flowing out of those traditional bank accounts that were suddenly being watched. Where did it go? Into things that are way harder to track, like multi-million-dollar apartments in New York, priceless works of art, super yachts, that kind of thing. They also started using super complicated legal trusts to make ownership almost impossible to untangle. And while all the regulators were staring at the banks, the actual architects of these schemes, the lawyers, the accountants, they were getting a lot less heat. But the craziest part, the biggest irony of all, the US, the country that forced the world to be more transparent, didn't really play by its own rules. And that turned states like South Dakota into the new hotspot for hiding foreign cash, the new Switzerland. Which brings us right up to today, to the very latest frontier in this ongoing war. The battle is moving. It's shifting away from physical bank vaults and into the wild, borderless digital world of cryptocurrency. And so that leaves us with this huge, critical question. This whole cat-and-mouse game between secrecy and transparency, as it moves onto the blockchain, are we just watching the shadow economy go digital? Are we witnessing the birth of a brand new offshore world, one that might be even more anonymous and impossible to regulate than the last one? One thing is for sure, this fight is a long, long way from being over.